Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys entertained, keeping you guys informed with what is going on in the UK. And yeah, we are talking about, a lot of these things that is happening. And one of the things that we were discussing, like I said, we were talking about all, the easing of restrictions in the UK and all of that is going on right now. And yeah, that's just, that is one of the things that we have been addressing. And one of the things also that I wanted to talk about is should companies be more afraid about the possibility of firmware cyber attacks? Yeah, that is something that is going on. And well, the computing giant Microsoft recently put out a report claiming that businesses globally are actually neglecting a key aspect of their cybersecurity, the need to protect computer, their only job to protect computers. That's their only job. I mean, this is what they're supposed to be doing, servers and all other devices from firmware attacks. So yeah, it's a survey of 1,000 cybersecurity decisions makers at enterprises across multiple industries in the UK, US, Germany, Japan, and China has revealed that 80% of firms have experienced at least one firmware attack in the past 2 years. Yet only 29% of security budgets have been allocated to protect firmware. So the new report, although, has come at the back of a recent significant security vulnerability affecting Microsoft's widely used Exchange email system. So yeah, and the computing giant launched a range of extra secure Windows 10 computers last year that says will prevent firmware from being tampered with. So is this just an attempt to divert attention and sell more PCs? Or should businesses actually be worried about this? Well, how a firmware attack works is simple. Not really simple, but I'll try to put it in layman's terms. Firmware is the type of a permanent software code that is used essentially to control a hardware component in your PC. So increasingly, these cyber criminals are designing these kind of malwares and these kind of viruses that quietly tampers with the firmware in your motherboard, which tells the PC to start up, or with the firmware in your hardware devices or drivers. So yeah, this is just another sneaky way, for them to neatly bypass a computer's operating system or any software designed to detect these malware, because this firmware code is in the hardware, which is a layer below the operating system. So security experts have said that even if the IT departments are following cybersecurity best practices like patching security vulnerabilities in softwares or protecting corporate networks from these malicious intrusions, many of these firms are actually forgetting about the firmware. So, an Australian and a cybersecurity researcher said that Robert Potter said that people don't think about it in terms of their patching. It's often not updated, and when it is something, sometimes it actually breaks. So Mr. Potter said that the Washington Post, he actually built the Washington Post's cybersecurity operations center and has advised the Australian government on cybersecurity. So yeah, he's been saying that firmware patching can sometimes be tricky. So for a lot of companies, it's become a blind spot. So there has been several major firmware attacks discovered in the last 2 years, such as Robinhood. Yeah, that is an actual firmware attack, and it's a ransomware that uses firmware to gain root access to a victim's computer, then encrypts all of the files until a Bitcoin ransom has been paid. So essentially, they are keeping you hostage. That's just the simple terms of it. They're keeping you hostage, your computer, your files and documents inside your computer hostage. And this malware held the data of several US city governments hostage in May 2019. Another example is ThunderSpy. That's essentially ThunderSpy, an attack that utilizes the direct memory access, so the DMA function that a PC hardware component uses to talk to other. So this attack is so stealthy, it's so secretive that an attacker can read and copy all the data in your computer without leaving a trace. And the attack is possible if the hard drive is encrypted. Even if it's encrypted, it doesn't matter. They can still do it, or even if the computer is locked or set to sleep. So if device firmware has no protection in place, or if the protection can be bypassed, then firmware companies are compromised, both in incredibly serious and potentially invisible compromisation. So that's just something, that is happening. But the good news is that these firmware attacks are less likely to target consumers, but big firms should be aware that essentially they should be more afraid of what is going to happen to them. And there was that researcher, U.S. cybersecurity firm researchers Gabriel Sherlick said that it's a big deal, but unfortunately, it only works against these big organizations because you need to target specific types of motherboards and firmware. So typically, all these cyber criminals tend to attack operating systems and popular software because they can only make money if they can infect the biggest numbers of end users. So firmware attacks are essentially less common and more complicated to implement than other types of these kind of cyber attacks. But unfortunately, the coronavirus pandemic has accelerated this problem. So yeah, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the NIST, an agency within the US Department of Commerce, continually updates a national vulnerability database, a NVD, with new security flaws. So they keep everyone up to date. They always, find out these new flaws in security and they keep it up to date in their database. So the database has recorded a 5-fold increase in attacks against firmware in the last 4 years. So that's a lot of attacks going on, especially to your computers, especially when it comes to the cyber criminals, trying to attack your computer and steal your information. That is, all the more reason why you have to, these big tech companies have to take responsibility and build better software. So although these firm attacks are not, phishing scams, malwares, or other cyber attacks, the cybersecurity experts say that now is the time for businesses and the industry as a whole to pay attention to hardware security. So yeah, that's just another thing that they should take care of their, the hardware, especially when it comes to hardware. They should actually look out for something for most of that, our hardware is more than the softwares as well. So this is just another thing that is happening, across the globe that we are not aware of. And if you are aware of it, I mean, it's great for you. You should always look, for steps to protect yourselves, especially with your PCs. And, ever since lockdown, all of the situation, just, they found out the loopholes of all of these devices and all of their issues and all of the weaknesses of their current system. So yeah, that's just another thing that firmware companies should be looking into to protect our information as well. And with that being said, though, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here and make way for my buddy Tim, who'll be keeping you company on the buzz, keeping you guys buzzing, keeping you guys talking and entertained all the way. So make sure you guys keep it locked with him and join him. And also don't forget, you can download the Relaks Radio app on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to carry us all day, every day, 365, 24/7. And hey, if you want to check us out, you can also check us out on our website, which is www.relaxradio.net. And with that being said, my name is Nick, and I'll catch you guys again tomorrow, same time, same place, same frequency. Peace and much love.